Good afternoon, everyone. We hope you're enjoying our coverage of the Australian Grand Prix, the season opener for season 2017 of the Formula One in Melbourne. But the Coates Hire Supercars Challenge kicks off next, and joining me for all of the action, it is a very good afternoon to 2005 Supercars champion Russell Ingall. Good afternoon, Russ.
Oh, afternoon, Jess.
Good to see you. Now, this is one of the best weeks in Australian motorsport. The vibe in Melbourne is absolutely incredible at the moment, and I think it's fair to say that all the Formula One drivers are as interested in what's happening in the Supercars paddock as the Supercars drivers are in what's happening in Formula One.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, it is a great event, Jess. And you're talking about the circuit itself as well. They sort of call it a street circuit, but the feel of it is like a permanent circuit. And it is very special. The atmosphere is great. You know, you hear a lot of rumours about teams going, well, we go to the Grand Prix, it's a non-championship round. Do we go there and just use it as a test session? But you can't. You know, you go there, there's a lot of corporate there, a lot of big sponsors. They're out there to impress. So, of course, they go out and once that green flag goes, she's all out.
Yeah, you only have to think about 12 months ago and the action that we saw through all of the races. Don't worry, they are playing for keeps at Альберт-Park today in Supercars. Coming into this event, it's exciting for us because it'll be the second time only that we've seen the full field in action this year. Shane Van Gisbergen, we know, was absolutely perfect. Clipsal, clean swept racing and qualifying. What do you think everyone's been thinking about since Clipsal in trying to catch him this year? Because he certainly set the benchmark.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was so dominant there. I mean, to go through virtually every session qualifying, as you said, and the races. And there wasn't a fault. I mean, you couldn't fault the way he went around it. I mean, he carved through the field. When he got dropped back through some of his pitch stop strategy, he could make his way through. I mean, he's such a strong driver and he's an intimidating driver. And we saw that when he come up onto some very, very good cars. And you look here, look at the commitment. This is going through turn 8 at 240 kilometres an hour, using every bit of track. But that's Shane. I mean, he's just so hard. So over this few-week break since Adelaide, I think a lot of drivers have been doing a bit of soul-searching and going, man, we've got to step it up, because that's what it's about. And including his teammate, Jamie Whincup, if you're going to beat the boy, you've got to step it up.
One of the exciting things, I think, heading into this weekend, and certainly off the back of the first round of the championship in Adelaide, was that real battle between DJR Team Penske and the Red Bull Holden Racing team that we're set to see this year. And this weekend will be the next chapter of that. And Fabian Coulthard obviously has put it on pole position for race 1 here today, and he broke the lap record yesterday in qualifying. But of course, it's the super soft tyre on debut this weekend as well. How quick do you think we'll see them go this weekend? Oh,
well, like I said, we've already seen him break the track record by half a second already. I mean, this man here, Fabian Coulthard, he was so good. He actually impressed me in Adelaide. You know, he sort of just plucked away at it. He was under the radar a little bit because all the focus was on Scott McLaughlin. It was a Scott McLaughlin show, right? So to not get fazed by that and actually come out with some great results, I was really impressed. And now we talk about Shane Van Gisbergen dominating Adelaide. He's come out and put it on pole in 3 out of the 4 qualifying sessions. That is super impressive. I mean, he's second in the other one. So a really good effort. And I'll tell you what, he's going to be hard to beat because some of the margins were nearly 4 to 5 tenths of a second.
Well, what's interesting too is that we've got a different qualifying format for this weekend. In past seasons, it's been a progressive grid, but this year, 4 qualifying sessions, 10 minutes each, 5 minutes apart. And that has really mixed the grid up. So it's going to be really interesting to see who can do what come race 1, which is just about to kick off. So let's head to the track now and say a very good afternoon to our commentary team in Richard Crowell and Jack Perkins.
There might not be points on the line, but there's something about supercars racing at this event that just makes it a little bit special.
Yeah, good afternoon, Krause. Great to be back here, Supercars at the Grand Prix. And yeah, no points there, but everyone wants to win. And seeing those 2 Shell cars on the front row of the grid reminds me of the Dick Johnson, John Bowe days when the Shell cars and the Dick Johnson team dominated. And it's really cool to see this new rivalry developing between Penske and Red Bull Racing Australia. So that continues here this weekend. And yeah, good to see those Penske boys dominating qualifying as we look at confirmation of the starting grid, which was the first qualifying session yesterday. inside, and Fabian Coulthard smashed the lap record to grab pole position.
Yeah, almost 8/10 of a second under Jamie Wincup's existing benchmark. It was Fabian's second pole here at Albert Park. Personal best Albert Park qualifying for Scott McLaughlin and Tim Slade, who was third, and good pace from the Brad Jones Racing guys all weekend. Then Jamie Whincup, David Reynolds was really strong for Erebus Motorsport. Then Chaz Mostert, Shane Van Gisbergen, the champ, goes from the fourth row of the grid with Michael Caruso, Rick Kelly and Jason Bright, the PRA Ford from the back of the top 10.
We see Will Davis and Techno there in 19th. Mark Winterbottom just outside the top 10 with brake dramas yesterday. So the boys pulled that car apart. We see James Courtney a bit further back down the pack. His teammate Scotty Pye there, and Craig Lowndes only just scraping inside the top 20. He'd be looking for a better start for today, this weekend. You know, very disappointing so far for him because his teammates are up the front.
And disappointing as well for Nick Percat, who had some success last year at the Clipsal 500. He's had a shocking run every time he's come to Albert Park in a supercar. They had engine dramas in that car for the first 2 of 4 qualifying sessions yesterday afternoon. They ended up replacing an ECU and got that car back out for races 3 and 4 qualifying, but he's got the job to do from P26 and last for race 1.
Yeah, disappointing for Nick. I touched base with Kim Jones, the team owner down there before the race, and a simple ECU change, the computer in the car, and it's come good, and engine's running on all 8 cylinders now, so disappointing for Nick, but he'll be looking to surge his way through the field in this first 13-lap race.
Just the 5 drivers out of this field of 26 have actually qualified in the top 10 for all 4 races, and we'll talk about those over the course of the day. Key talking points this weekend, the big round black things on all 4 corners of these cars, much like it is in Formula 1, they're a hot topic. This is the first time we're running the new super soft Dunlop Sport Max tyre, and it's worked. They're, as we said, 7/10 of a second under the qualifying record, race lap record very much under threat as well. Lots of pace from this new Dunlop tyre that's been introduced this year.
Yeah, that's exactly where the lap records come from. The drivers are suggesting the new tyre construction is a lot better through the mid-corner. It gives the car more speed, more grip, and we're seeing that with lap records tumbling. But unique this weekend, we've still got the roll-in start. So typically the Supercars Championship Series has a standing start. Fabian Coulthard controls the pace here. Red lights on. When that reds are out, Fabian gets going, and so does the rest of the field.
It's a battle of the Shell V-Power Fords at the pointy end of the field. Fabian Coulthard and Scott McLaughlin will have that iconic drag race into turn 1 and turn 2 at Albert Park. Away we go. Bit of wheel spin for Fabian Coulthard. He's in car 12. McLaughlin's start was pretty good. So too Jamie Whincup. He started 4th. He's 3rd already. Watch for Mostert and the super cheap Ford as well, but it's going to be Scott McLaughlin. Squeezes his teammate through turn 1, and it's a drag race between the 2 of them. The run up to turn 3.
I think that was Scott Pye on the exit of turn 1 off the track, but it's all happening down here into turn 3. This is where there's normally a bit of carnage. We see Shane Van Gisbergen going 3 wide with David Reynolds and Mark Winterbottom, but it's Fabian Coulthard running wide there and gone off the racetrack. There's a little shortcut there, and he'll get back in 3rd or 4th by look at that.
And the seas have parted for Jamie Whincup, 4th to 3rd to 2nd to 1st in 4 corners. Van Gisbergen out wide. I don't think David Reynolds has had a particularly good opening lap either in that Penrite Erebus Holden. Need to keep an eye on where he is. There's Van Gisbergen, who's already dropped spots. He started this one in 7th place, but that was about a bad the first 3 corners as you could get for DJR Team Penske, short of them ending up in the sand at turn 1.
Just when we think Jamie Whincup can't win from 4th, he gets the lead on the first lap, and you know, he did a great job. It started with a great start. He got ahead of Tim Slade, moved into 3rd quite quickly, and then as the 2 DJR cars tripped over into turn 3, he was there to pick up the pieces and leads away. We see this is James Courtney, Todd Kelly with a bit of smoke coming out of the right rear of the Nissan.
Interesting thing with Jamie Whincup was how they tuned that car over the course of the 4 qualifying sessions. And he couldn't write the script. He qualified 4th for race 1, then went 3rd, 2nd, 1st. So that car got better and better over the course of the 4 10-minute sessions. Gee, busy in the back of the field as always. So that's David Reynolds, the Penrite black and gold car, number 9. Long way down the field. He's 19th, Jack. He started this race P5 as we see Fabian Coulthard down the inside of Chaz Mostert. So he's on the comeback trail, but the pole sitters P3 at the end of the first 5.3 kilometres of this Albert Park lap. And this is what we've wanted ever since we saw them go head-to-head at the Clipsal 500. Red Bull Holden Racing Team versus Shell V-Power Racing.
Tim Slade lost a few spots there. He's in 5th for Freightliner, and right behind him is actually Michael Caruso, first of the Nissans. He had pole here a couple of years ago and really enjoys driving the Albert-Park circuit. As we see, there's action right through the back of the pack here. Scott Pye, Craig Lowndes and Taz Douglas there with young Alex Rouleau rounding out the rear of the field there. He's just 17 years of age, mate. The rest of his mates are at school while he's here driving a supercar at the Grand Prix. But back to the front of the field, Jamie Whincup coming under a little bit of pressure now from Scott McLaughlin.
And this is the interesting thing, Jack, that we're going to see evolve over the 13 laps of this race, is that we don't have an indication of what these cars will do over a race distance on a circuit that can traditionally be hard on a rear tyre. They only had the one practice session, then they were straight into qualifying yesterday evening in cooler conditions as the sun was setting around Albert Park. So this is a really interesting test session for these guys now to work out how these tyres behave, and they'll be filing all this, won't they, for later on in the year?
Yeah, and having touched base with a few of the drivers last night after qualifying, the comment was that qualifying the tyres were only good for one lap. So it was effectively 4 shootouts for everyone yesterday. So if the tyres are only going to last one lap in qualifying, over 13 laps they're going to have degradation. So we'll see that, and that's because of the long flowing nature of the corners. We already see Jamie Whincup using all the track there, starting to use a lot of rear grip, and Scott McLaughlin looks like he's got a lot more grip, and he's looking up the inside now. It's one of the great passing spots here in this final section of the Albert Park circuit.
Fabian Coulthard said it was great qualifying because it's a big tune-up for the shootouts that come later on in the year, so he feels like he'll be pretty sharp for those. This is allowing Coulthard to cruise up behind the 2 leaders as well. So McLaughlin up behind Jamie Whincup. 4th is Chaz Mostert. 5th is Tim Slade. And Slade was one of those drivers that had great pace throughout all 4 qualifying sessions. Just dramas in quali 3. Otherwise, he was in the top 6 consistently yesterday. McLaughlin with a good run out the final corner. The talk at the Calypso 500 Adelaide 2 weeks ago was how good those DJR Team Penske's cars were in a straight line. Not too bad here either.
We watch a battle here between Jason Bright and Shane Van Gisbergen, and this is for 8th and 9th, and it's a heated little battle. James Moffat in the GRM Motorsport holding Commodores this year. We see he's changed for the lead. That's Scott McLaughlin up the inside of Jamie Whincup. I was going to touch on the fact that Jamie was struggling a little bit here, and Scotty's going to pull a move off around the outside on the old Redheads complex, as it was known, and Fabian might even sneak back through. And look at that, it's a Penske 1-2. Jamie's dropped back to 3rd in 3 corners. And
Mostert's going to take advantage of that too. He was elbowed out wide, Whincup, and he's gone back to 4th place. Great bit of racing there. Room given, but it was just enough room. It was all that he needed to give to keep it fair. Really good bit of driving. Heads up from Coulthard to follow his teammate through, and Mostert was just able to take the opportunity and cruise on through to P3 as well. So now the 2 Shell Fords are 1 and 2 once again, and the Fords are 1, 2, 3 as we work the 3rd of 13 laps.
For whatever reason, that lap 2, Jamie Whincup just wasn't comfortable. His lap time of 1:58.1 compared to Fabian Coulthard of 1:57.0, 1.1 seconds slower, and he was leading the motor race. So clearly not comfortable inside that number 88 Red Bull Holden, and he's just going to have to find his rhythm, maybe make an anti-roll bar adjustment inside the car and try and get back onto the back of Chaz. And for the first time in a long time, it's Ford 1, 2, 3 in the supercars.
How much will they be trialling down there at Red Bull Racing, do you think? Again, across the whole field, they'll all be testing and practicing. No points up for grabs. They all want to win here, of course. It's a big event, live TV. It's all important. As we go back and have a look at the start, we'll come back to that point. So McLaughlin's jump was great. Whincup's was probably the best of the leading 5 or 6 cars, and he got himself hard right early, and that would pay dividends when they got down to turn 4.
It's a unique way to start a race for V8 Supercars. Almost 5 wide in some spots, and 5 into 1 doesn't work, but a little bit of adjusting back here. That's Scott Pye and also Taz Douglas off the road. They lost a lot of positions there on the first 2 corners, and this is where it all happened. Watch what happens here. So Fabian Coulthard on the inside. Looks like he just carried too much speed. He didn't even have a wheel lock, but he just couldn't pull it up. He's ran off through the grass. Cost Scott McLaughlin a little bit of time, and Jamie Whincup was the big winner here. So you see, this is a replay now of Scotty moving into the lead. This is a great move into turn 3. Snuck up the inside of Jamie, gave him racing room. Jamie tried to stay there, but Scotty had the right line here. A little bit of a touch on the way out, and the boys in the Penske garage very happy with that.
Terrific performance. This was tremendous stuff. Still at replay, so it was McLaughlin out wide, and then Coulthard was able to cruise through and grab that spot. And Chaz Mostert, with a grin, I'm sure, was able to grab 3rd. Now Fabian, the pole sitter, has cruised up behind the rear wing of his teammate as Whincup drops back into the clutches of the Freightliner Commodore, driven by Tim Slade. The BJR cars have been pretty fast. Tim Blanchard had his best ever Supercars qualifying performance, was 13th for this race.
Well, Fabian having a little look up the inside of Scott McLaughlin. Last year he did the same thing to Mark Winterbottom. They made contact and Winterbottom went around. Not the kind of place you want to try and pass your teammate, because I'm sure the memo to these two boys is race hard, but don't trade any of that PPG pain.
Here he goes, looks down the inside, but McLaughlin's too good under brakes, but it seems inevitable. He's got great speed. Fabian's got an extraordinary record at this place, Jack. He won the round here in 2013. McLaughlin won the year after, ironically, for Volvo, the first win for that brand in supercars while they were in the sport. So they've both got a good track record here, but he's had 16 top 10 finishes from the last 19 races here. Hugely consistent Fabian Coulthard at Альберт-Парк.
Yeah, he's done a great job, especially yesterday in qualifying. It was really impressive to watch him. He was quick straight out the box, and he did a great job. It looks like he's got pace over his teammate, but pace is one thing. Finding your way past is very difficult around here, especially when you've got the same car and the same engines from the same stable. So we'll be interested to see whether Fabian can get past Scotty a little bit further down the pack. This looks like Cam Waters in the monster car with James Courtney behind him, Will Davison and David Reynolds. Still not sure what happened to him at the start, but he lost a bunch of places.
It was Rick Kelly going past Cam Waters too, so Rick up to 11th. The Senglet Nissan, they've been pretty quick all weekend too, those four cars. Michael Caruso running P6 in this one. Actually, Simona Di Silvestro on her first look at Альберт-Парк up to 17th, having started this one 22nd. There's Jason Bright, the Mega Ford, a little bit wide and wrapped up by James Moffat. And that's the battle for 9th and 10th place. So Moffat up to P9. The GRM cars weren't bad yesterday. They're up and down a bit like a yo-yo in qualifying, but they seem to have pretty good one-lap pace.
Yeah, and everywhere they go this year in the Holden Commodores is a learning experience. They've changed from Volvo, as we know, and the Holden Aero package is a lot different, as they've found. So everywhere they're going, they're learning new things between the mechanical balance and the aero balance. We're looking at Reynolds try to move on Will Davison, had the rears locked and just avoided contact with the rear of the car. He's lucky not to turn Will around, but they've pressed on.
Todd Kelly in the car sales Nissan, at least circulating. He had the worst possible round here 12 months ago. That car broke throughout practice, it broke in qualifying, and then it broke in about 2 of the 4 races as well. A shocking weekend. At least he's out there circulating, and Todd's qualified quite well for race 4, which will be forerunner to the Formula 1 Australian Grand Prix later in the afternoon. Tortured brakes and tyres.
That's
a little bit up,
right.
a long way off the road in the PRA Ford and out into the gravel trap. And he's been able to get the thing off into the grass runoff road, so he'll rejoin, but he's just thrown away a top 10 position, going a little bit too deep under brakes down at turn 13.
And we heard that first. We could hear the tyre screeching. So what's happened? Jason's got down there, and one of the front corner weights was slightly out of balance for whatever reason, whether he's hit a bump, and it's taken the left front wheel to lock, which is the unloaded side, and that's then meant he wasn't able to pull the car up in time and ran off through the gravel trap and lost a lot of time. But back up the front, these three have cleared away. Safe to say Jamie Whincup doesn't have the pace of the front three. Chaz Mostert hanging in there just, but Fabian Coulthard, for mine, is the quickest car on the track at the moment.
So to the point we were making before, how much are they going to be taking out of this weekend in knowledge and preparation and data for later on in the season when they use these tyres? A place like Simmons Plains in a couple of weeks.
Just a quick replay of Moffat getting the job done on Jason Bright into turn 3, and a little bit of biff and barge there, which wouldn't have made Moff too pleased, but I think Bright, he just had a little bit of wheel spin on the way out and slid into the side of him, but good, clean racing nonetheless. Look, the answer to your question, Richard, all the teams and drivers are here to put their best foot forward. Those who aren't winning are probably going to tell people they're trying parts, and those that are winning are just going to say it's a dress rehearsal. But the reality is, every time supercars go racing, you're trying to put your best foot forward. You want to know that your settings are good, your suspension setting works anywhere, and that your car speed's going to work. And as a replay of Bright, he had that loaded tyre locked up. And what you can see on street circuits is the painted lines can cause dramas on the racetrack as well. But Penske clearly rolled out the gate with great car speed. They've got a good package so far this year, done a lot of work in the off-season. They managed to get the services of Ludo Lacroix from 888 Race Engineering, which is the Red Bull racing team, and of course Scotty McLaughlin, who's leading the race, is a new driver coming from the Volvo team.
So Scott McLaughlin leads the way, Fabian Coulthard is second, Chaz Mostert third, Jamie Whincup fourth, and it's Tim Slade, Michael Caruso, Mark Winterbottom, Shane Van Gisbergen, James Moffat and Rick Kelly back to Альберт-Парk in a sec for the conclusion of race 1 of the Coatside Supercar Challenge.
Hi, Daryl Beattie here. Have you seen the latest competition from our friends at Shannon's? Take a look at this.
Shannon's are giving you the chance to win a tour to Italy and the exclusive Concorso d'Eleganza on breathtaking Lake Como. Experience Italy's best. Stay in luxury accommodation with up to $5,000 spending money for Shannon's Club members. Enjoy a luxury speedboat tour of Lake Como, visit Ferrari and Lamborghini museums and spend 3 nights in fabulous Monaco. Plus, win an Indian Scout motorcycle. To enter, get a quote on your special car, spouse's car, daily drive, your bike or home. Take out a policy for even more chances of winning. Call Shannon's on 134646 or go online today.
What a great trip. For your chance to win, get a quote on your car, bike or home insurance today. Call Shannon's on 134646 or go online.
One man built his reputation on a handshake. He made a promise that no matter who you were or what you'd like to drink, he'd have that drink at the lowest price. That was Dan Murphy's promise. And it always will be.
Life before my budget was really stressful. The biggest thing for us was we never had savings. Now we've got thousands of dollars and I wish we'd done this 10 years ago.
Visit mybudget.com.au.
When you run a small business, you'll hear a ton of advice. There's good advice and bad advice. For example, build a website and update it regularly.
Get your logo out there any way you can.
Use SEO to rank higher on Google.
Get a business tattoo.
To empower your business, you need good marketing advice. So get yours from the experts at Census Today.
The Professor's second-year syndrome. We are not asking you to watch this show.
Welcome back to Albert Park. Don't worry, you haven't missed a thing. It's still Scott McLaughlin and Fabian Coulthard leading the way. This is the fight for 12th and 13th place, and it's Cameron Waters being gobbled up by 4 or 5 cars. David Reynolds goes past, so too does Will Davison and the Preston Hire Commodore of Lee Holdsworth. So running just outside the top 10. Waters was under pretty serious pressure out in front. McLaughlin's just edged away from his teammate Fabian Coulthard. The gap is just under 1 second. Chaz Mostert still third. Jamie Whincup fourth at 4.5 seconds off the lead, and Tim Slade still rounds out the top 5 in the Freightliner Commodore for Brad Jones Racing. Jack Perkins and Richard Craill with you, taking you all the way through to the finish of this first of 4 Coates Hire Supercar races here at Albert Park. They're not championship, but there's plenty on the line. Bragging rights indeed, and this is a look at what happened to young Cameron. Just bumped the wall there.
Yeah, just got the wall and also the yellow line off it, and many missed the apex on the approach there, but Bridie's gone around off the back straight as well. That's a replay from earlier on.
So it's Fords 1, 2, 3 at the pointy end of this field, and down in pit lane, I think Mark Larkham's got a bloke that'll be pretty happy about that.
Absolutely, it's great to be down here with Dick Johnson. First thing I want to say for folks at home, this team's now called DJR Team Penske. Now, I'm not smart enough to get all that together, so we often just call it Team Penske, but don't kid yourself. DJ stands for Dick Johnson, this bloke. Dick, you've dedicated your life, your adult life, to get to where this team is today. It must give you great pride to be able to see your cars, not just here, but at Clipsal, and I think for the rest of the year, at the front of the pack.
Well, it's been a long road back, I can assure you, but, you know, the last real success we had was in 2010. But to have Shell back on board as our major sponsor and things like that, along with all of our long-standing sponsors. It's like Back to the Future, to be quite honest, because we had a lot of success going back in the 80s and certainly the 90s.
Yes, you've lived that one, mate. So one of the quirky things is I think people would expect, because it's got a Penske name in it, an American, a very famous, very successful one, there would be Americans around here and NASCAR bits and IndyCar bits, but I still sense this is very much still a Dick Johnson racing organisation. Sure, Penske's the majority owner, but it's not like the culture has changed enormously.
No, the culture hasn't changed a lot at all, to be quite honest, because they are all, except for probably one person, all virtually Australians and Kiwis, you know. So it's like back when we were sort of going well with the Shell department then too. So it's very pleasing to see that, you know, we're as smart as them all.
And one of the big problems is one of the drivers is a Kiwi. Anyway, Dick, we can see.
That's all right. Only one's a Kiwi.
All right, mate. Great to chat.
Cheers. They both are, actually. David Coulthard pretty much claims his Kiwi heritage while we were hearing from Larko. Thanks for that, mate. And Dick Johnson, we just saw a little bit of drama further down the field. Cam Horder's race gets worse, dumped by his former Dunlop Series rival, Scotty Pye, the Mobil 1 Holden Special Vehicles outfit. James Courtney's got dramas down at turn 1. It's not been a good race for this outfit.
Seen lots of brake locking today, Richard. We saw that Cam Waters aggravation started with him locking a brake earlier on and then getting gobbled up and ultimately getting turned around by Scotty Pye. And then seeing James Courtney lock a left front as well. That's the loaded side tyre into turn 1. Is not something that you commonly see. So whether there's something on the racetrack or the drivers are starting to struggle with an unknown grip level as we approach lap number 10 on this new super soft and the new construction Dunlop tyre.
We should talk about brake feel as well, because it's such an individual thing. Some drivers like the brakes to feel one way, some the other. That's Tim Slade. Drama, one of the top 5 running cars, and that is a puncture. Left rear corner. The Dunlops come off the rim.
That's a shame for Slady. He was running pretty well, just outside the top 5, and it looks like that's a clean puncture. I mean, it's hard to suggest whether he may have clipped a fence, but judging by that, it looks like it's a puncture. No other marks on the side of the car, and I'm not quite sure which left-hand wall he could have got, but certainly going to try and crawl that back to the pits, but you can do quite a lot of damage with the rubber hanging out the side of the guard.
Stop trying to make informed racing discussion during this, because every time I do, I get interrupted by action. Unfortunate for Tim Slade, who broke through for his first Supercars victory at Winton last year. Backed it up the next day. It was a terrific performance there near the hometown of Brad Jones Racing. And let's go back and have a look at James Courtney. So car 22, sponsorship from Boost Mobile on that car this weekend. And as you mentioned, big left front lock up there for James. Had a pretty difficult day yesterday for this rebranded team.
And what happens when you lock the brake, you have to come off the brake pedal to get the wheel to start spinning again, and then that means you stop braking the car to the corner and then you run out of road, and you see James with a bit of opposite lock through the gravel trap, not where he wanted to be, but certainly a lot of brake locking issues. But must give a shout out to Simona Di Silvestro, our first full-time female racer here. Look at her up the inside, 3 wide possibly on the Preston Hire Commodore of Lee Holdsworth, but what a great job. She's ahead of Todd Kelly, her team boss, in 14th place. What a great job, and awesome to have the former IndyCar racer full-time on the grid this year for Supercars. As I speak, Todd Kelly's going to sneak one back on Simona here and take that position away.
Give the boss a bit of room, but this is good hard racing. In fact, Simona now goes down the inside in the Harvey Norman Nissan. Terrific performance, 14th place. There's Nick Percat. That amazing rainbow livery, Holden jumping onto the sides of that car this weekend, supporting equality. And it had an enormous reaction on social media, and fortunately a vast majority of it really positive. It's a great message, and well done to Holden and to Brad Jones Racing for that great cause. And Nick's worked his way up. Remember, started this one last. He's up to 15th now. So positive stuff for the young South Australian.
I think James Courtney had another brake lock up there across the rear of the circuit, so that front tyre's most likely got a flat spot on it, and we refer to a 50-cent piece where it starts to pick up that flat spot every time you get back on the brakes.
Well, we're trying to talk about brakes before, and Mark Winterbottom was very vocal on social media last night about the braking issues that they've had in his Spottalo Racing Falcon. Had it at Clipsal, got the same problem here. What do you think it is? What would cause those kind of dramas? Is it just a feel thing, a driver preference, or something mechanical?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of braking issues that can present. The first one is the brake locking we're seeing today, and that's a factor of things. It could be the brake pads or the suspension settings in the car, or particularly how the driver's using the car and placing the car. Then there's also a brake feel and a retardation, we call it, as we see Lee Holdsworth putting up the inside of James Courtney. And the brake feel is the ability to have confidence to jump on the brakes and maximise the braking power of the car. So people utilise different master cylinder sizes so that the fluid displacement's different and gives you more or less pedal travel on the brake pedal. And it's a very unique thing for the driver. And the FPR, or the Pro Drive Racing Australia battle that Mark's talking about, I'm not exactly sure, but this is a big failure there.
That's a big hit, Jack. That's an enormous hit to Lee Holdsworth, who had no idea Nick Percat was coming at undiminished velocity across the Rolex sign at the inside of turn one, and he was speaking about braking.
I think
there was none of it going on there.
That's either a brake failure or a stuck throttle. Nick did his absolute very best to get to the inside, but unfortunately tagged Lee Holdsworth, and that's taken the wind out of him. Good to see him out of the car, but you never like to see cars doing 250k an hour and having no stopping ability.
That's a big impact. Huge initial... Oh, man, look at the damage to the back of the Brad Jones Racing Commodore. We're under safety car. Naturally, that car in a dangerous position, and he's going to be a bit sore tonight. I think Nick Percat, massive hit. And Lee Holdsworth, who was just going about his merry business, turning out of turn one, being attended to by the volunteer officials who do an amazing job, and the safety teams here at Albert-Park. This circuit, we should emphasise now, safer than it ever has been. The faster Formula One cars mean that the track has had several safety improvements over the off-season in its design. New barriers have been planted in. And, gee, what started out as a really promising day for Brad Jones Racing ends terribly. And there's Nick.
So he's pretty keen to get over to Lee and just let him know that it wasn't him trying. No brakes, there you go. So Nick, clearly no brakes. And he's apologising to Lee, who was very much the innocent bystander there. And feel sorry for that little Preston High team. That's not what they need, and certainly not what BJR needed. No one wanted to do that on purpose, and we see Lee Holdsworth out of the car. Okay, very much a testament to these cars. They are as safe as houses. Look at the replay. Nick Percat there on Todd Kelly, and you see there, instantly no brakes. He's gone to the inside to miss drilling the back of Todd Kelly. He's gone across the inside of the tyre bundle, backed his car into the rear of Lee Holdsworth, and it has opened the back of that BJR Commodore up, taken the rear windscreen out. I've never seen one of the new rear windscreens break like that.
And I think this was a case of, well, I either hit Todd Kelly or I bail out of that and try and avoid and get lucky and avoid everyone. And Holdsworth copped the brunt of that in the right rear corner of the Preston Hire Commodore, as did the Brad Jones Racing car. Incredible livery for this weekend. So this will show it really well.
And Lee was nearly past. He nearly got that gap between the cars. But I would suggest a bit of suspension damage to Lee's car. I reckon that car will be back out, if not this afternoon, tomorrow. But I'd be surprised if we see Nick Percat's car out for the rest of the weekend. That would have done a lot of damage to the left rear and also right up to the parcel shelf for that Commodore.
They had such a tough year last year, Preston High Racing. Charlie Schwerkold's team, a big crash for Lee Holdsworth at Hidden Valley. Destroyed a car, had to get a new one built, turned it round. They had replacement drivers in their cars. Really tough initial season in supercar racing for that outfit since moving across to Holden. And just looking to stay out of trouble this weekend and learn and get up to speed. You're right about the damage and popping that rear screen out. And these cars built, the next generation supercars, car of the future when it was launched, were built to sustain that kind of an impact better than the previous spec cars. They moved the fuel cell forward of the rear axle, so they're much better at absorbing those rear impact. And you would have thought with an older gen car that would have created a few more issues for Nick Percat and fuel cells hanging out over the rear axle. So if you're going to crash, do it in one of these cars because they're very safe, and you can see the extra row of protection. So a lot of the corners have got an extra row of tyres, and some of them have got the FIA Tech Pro barriers around them as well to cope with the faster Formula One cars.
It is unbelievably hard to describe how Nick Percat would have felt for about 4 seconds then. that feeling when you're doing 250, 260k, and when you jump on the brake pedal and it's not there, the heart rate would have gone to about 250, and he's just tried to do what he could to miss having an accident, and unfortunately, you know, done a lot of damage. But good to see both drivers walk away, but, you know, very relieving as well that it could have been a lot worse than that.
So with the good news that both of those drivers are uninjured, we find ourselves on the last lap of the race. It looks like they're going to call it this time around, and we find ourselves with Shell V-Power Racing 1 and 2. Their last victory in Supercars competition came here in came at Queensland Raceway in 2013 with Chas Mostert. Their last win here came with James Courtney in 2010. But for the first time since Roger Penske bought into DJR, they're going to become winners in supercar racing. And it's a 1-2 performance for Shell V-Power Racing in race 1 at Albert Park, and it's Scott McLaughlin leading Fabian Coulthard home. An emphatic performance. They didn't lead early, but they shuffled Jamie Whincup back, and from there they never really looked like they were going to be headed before the safety car came out. And a bit of a marker for Scott McLaughlin to get one on his teammate. Talking about that during Formula One practice, that it's an early marker in the season to get one on your teammate. McLaughlin's done that. And the first win for that team since 2013, and the first one since Roger Penske became involved. A terrific performance. Should mention Chas Mostert to third was a really good drive. Jamie Whincup ended up fourth where he started. Michael Caruso was fifth.
This is going to be a great race later on this afternoon, race 2, as we see Ludo Lacroix very pumped to get his first win for Team Penske in only their second event. But I'm really looking forward to race 2 now, Richard, because the grid is very similar. We've got Coulthard off pole and Scotty McLaughlin off 2, with Jamie Whincup moving up to 3rd and Chas off 4th. So I tell you what, this next race this afternoon is going to be an absolute ripper if it's anything like that one.
So plenty of drama, plenty of action in the first of 4 races. The Coates High Supercar Challenge, a non-championship round in the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship, but plenty on the line, and this is huge positive momentum for this 2-car team, still based up near the Gold Coast in Queensland. Good performance by Chas Mostert to 3rd. Key performers behind them. James Moffat started 14th, ended 7th. So really good drive for Moff. Mark Winterbottom was up to 8th from 12th. James Courtney inside the top 10 as well from 15th. So a few movers and shakers there. Simona Di Silvestro ended up 13th. Outstanding result for her first race here at Albert Park. Gee, there's a lot to digest out of 13 laps at Albert Park, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Tim Slade was running really well until he got that puncture, and Garth Tander also DNF'd as well. So, including Holdsworth and Percat, we had 4 non-finishers.
So there'll be celebrations for a short while at DJR Team Penske Shell V-Power Racing, because not long after Formula One practice 2 later on this afternoon, they go racing again, and then it's 1 race a day from here on in. 1 tomorrow and 1 before the start of the Australian Grand Prix on Sunday afternoon. So they've got a quick turnaround time. There'll be some teams that will have to work pretty hard to get their cars right. We hope that Lee Holdsworth can get back out in that Preston Hire Commodore. Certainly we don't expect to see Nick Percat back on the racetrack. Certainly not today, perhaps not this weekend. We'll have updates for you when we come back for race 2 this afternoon. So McLaughlin, Coulthard, Mostert, Whincup, Caruso, the top 5. So the Nissan's looking pretty strong, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Caruso there in 5th. And also Rick Kelly doing a great job until later in the race when he did have to a little off-track excursion, but showing good speed. And as you said, Todd Kelly in 12th. Simona Di Silvestro in 13th. A great job from her. But look at the boys. Very proud moment. The guys have put a lot of work in the off-season, and indeed their first 2 seasons as well to get to this point. And although it's a non-championship round, a win's a win, and a 1-2 for the team is even better. So Ben Croak there on the right, the team manager, very proud of his men. And Scotty McLaughlin getting out of the car. Ryan Story there as well, team principal. Pretty happy with that.
So it's the 4th win for DJR/DJR Team Penske here at Albert Park. It's the 3rd win for Scott McLaughlin. And Fabian Coulthard's incredible record continues. He's now 17 from 20 in terms of top 10s from race starts at this place. So confirm the results for you. It finished under safety car, but it was McLaughlin, Coulthard, then Mostert and Whincup. Caruso 5th. Van Gisbergen battled his way to 6th. Moffat inside the top 10 7th. Good drive for GRM, then Winterbottom, Reynolds and Courtney worked his way forward in the Mobil 1 HSV Racing Commodore. Will Davison was 11th, then Todd Kelly, Simona Di Silvestro, as we said, to 13th. Scott Pye to 14th. Wood Lowndes, who's having a pretty tough weekend. The Team Vortex car, Blanchard, Douglas, Waters and Rullo. LD Motorsport was 20th. Jason Bright we saw with dramas, then Rick Kelly, Lee Holdsworth, Nick Percat, Tim Slade and Garth Tander, all with dramas in race 1.
Massive result for DJR Team Penske at Albert-Park this afternoon. Their first ever 1-2 and the first ever win for that team as we know it today. Scotty McLaughlin laying down the gauntlet. Aren't they really taking it to Red Bull?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what a strong performance. I think Fabian was his own demise. He sort of was a bit kind to Scotty at the start, which probably cost him a position, but Penske are in town. I know it's a non-championship race, but it's good form, and especially on the super soft tyre as well.
What did you think of the start, Russ? It's pretty wild going into turn 1 there, isn't it?
It was. They were definitely playing the teammate gig. There was no doubt about that. Fabian gave Scotty plenty of room around here, like there's plenty of real estate there. I think if it was another car, you would have shoved him off into the gravel trap, but they were very kind to each other. Like I said, they were a bit too kind, I think, Fabian, and it actually cost him a little bit in the end here. Just went in that little bit deep, just locked a bit of rears, got a little bit sideways and actually speared off. So just out of shot, there he is. Fabian's off into the trap and cost him a little bit of time. He was actually did a good thing there, actually going across, because there's a couple of little speed humps there you can damage the car. So did a real good job to come on without damaging the thing, but a strong performance. Those cars were so fast.
A great taste too of what's to come, I think, between DJR Team Penske and, of course, the Red Bull Holden Racing team. Scotty McLaughlin really giving it to Jamie Whincup, and he made a great move there to take the lead again.
Oh, for sure. This was a strong performance. I mean, Scotty wasn't sitting back there. I mean, anyone else probably would have sat behind Jamie Whincup, but no way. He stuck it down the inside, actually made enough of a gap so Fabian Coulthard could get through as well, and Chaz Mostert. So for Ford fans, they'd be loving this action. But I tell you what, Roland Dane from the 888 Red Bull Racing will be going away from this race thinking, man, I know it's not championship, so we can't, but you know, you got to look forward a little bit here. Those cars are strong. So I think Roland Dane will be going away from this race going, guys, we better do some more homework.
A few tyre dramas, it seemed, through that race. Obviously, as we said at the top of the show, super soft tyre on debut. Is something we need to worry about heading into the second race?
Well, like I said, Jess, this is the first time they've actually run this tyre. We couldn't see any marks. There's Tim Slade here with a left rear gone down. It's hard to say around here because it is pretty easy to fall off the curb. The curb's actually pretty vicious here. Maybe he went through a gravel trap, we don't know. But there was only a couple of cars. Look, it can be anything like a guard rubbing. He could have touched another car and that's what cut the tyre. This is purely driver error on James Courtney's part. Just went in a little bit deep. You saw him going over the curb and locked that left front, and that's what cost him a better result.
A massive, massive moment for Nick Percat and Lee Holdsworth there at the end of that race. Unfortunately, that means their day is over, and they'll obviously have quite a bit of work to do to stay in the action this weekend. Really bad luck for them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 255 kilometres an hour to go in backwards and bad luck for both teams. I don't think they'll be fixing that car of Percat's. That is severely damaged.
Well, we're looking forward to race 2 of the Coates Hire Supercars Challenge. That's coming up later this afternoon on Fox Sports. When we come back, it's the F1 Legends showcasing the legendary Sir Jack Brabham, and of course, practice 2 for Formula 1 is coming up a little later this afternoon. Russ and I will be back very shortly.
This has been a presentation of Fox Sports. Promising results from Penske, but Van Gisbergen's double
is the reigning champion. He's at another level at the moment.
Suggests he's still the one to beat. The home of supercars, Fox Sports.
Beautiful.
Hey, Andrew. What are you up to?
Like a 70s shocker from suburbia.
Typical.